Welcome to Badass Ladyfolk. I'm your host, Christine Stoddard, and my guest this episode is Ash Patlan. Hi, Ash.
Hi.
Yeah, so I am so happy that I met you for the production of Mi Abuela, Queen of Nightmares at the Tank, my play that was directed by Fiamma Piacentini, who has been on the show. She was on our first ever video episode. She is a delight, as you know. And yeah, something that you told me, I think right around the time we opened, was how unusual that show was for you in your career, how it was a first. So could you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it was the first time I've ever been in a show where it's strictly like the good amount of the body work that I did in the show was not talking and not, I think I had one line in the whole show. And so it was like my body telling the story. And I had never been a person that has really felt like my body was, I don't know, like I didn't really feel connected to it. Part of that was an illness that I had when I was 17. I had cancer. And ever since, even though, I'm very grateful for the 3 years that I had, battling it and, that the people did everything that they could to, give me the medicines that I needed to, to be alive and well like I am today. Even though I'm very grateful for that, I've found that even through my survivorship, like it's very hard for me to connect to this vessel. And this was the first time where, my body was like, it was the star of, of the role that I was playing. And getting myself to connect to that in order to tell the story. It was a battle in itself, but I'm so very grateful for it. And it made me love me in ways that I never thought I could. And so I'm just so deeply grateful for it. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Aw, yeah, and we were so happy to have you. You had also mentioned to me that it was the first time that, at least from what I remember, it was the first time that you had been cast as a Latina playing a Latina.
Yes.
So could you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. As you can probably tell, I am very light-skinned, and this hair is not my normal color. It's usually like a lighter brown color. And so I am very, I pass as white a lot of the time and, or, ambiguous. And people are like, I don't know what to do with you. And so, and it's like very confusing. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And they just kind of put me in whatever roles. They're like, yeah, I guess you could do that. And then, and that's kind of just been the go-to my whole acting career. And so, it wasn't until like the very first time that I ever did anything where it was close to, I'm Mexican, close to my, background was when I wrote my own play and starred in it at Actors Theater of Louisville during my apprenticeship. And that was because I gave myself that platform. And I'm like, oh, no, I can do this. No. I should be able to play what I am. And I don't have to fit into whatever mold people already have set for me. Like I can do what I want. And so doing that kind of gave me when I came across the notice for your play, I was just like, no, I can do that. I can absolutely do this. And somebody, just like I saw it myself, somebody else will see it, and somebody else will see it and be like, yeah, no, you absolutely deserve to look the way you do and be represented on that stage just like anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that in terms of colorism and ideas about color, that's something that definitely comes up on the Salvadoran side of my family where my mom is, she's olive, but she's still light olive, right? She is a light person. Yeah. There are people in her family who would be considered brown, but they are not the majority by any means. That is very, very light olive family. And people will ask where she's from because they hear the accent. But it's almost never based on physical appearance. Or if it is, it's because she is ambiguous to them, right?
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Yeah, and so it was really hard for me to see myself in there until I'm just like, you know what? if no one else is going to give me the opportunity, I'm going to give myself that opportunity. And if I give myself that, maybe I'll start to believe it louder and really go for the things, that I want to do, and someone else will see that in me as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of just what happened with that.
And I remember at the audition, which for listeners and viewers, we noticed you because you were so poised and just strength really came across. I would say more like the poise for sure, but strength even more so just really was visible. And as you know, in the audition, we were in a dance studio and everyone was going through movement exercises that were not strictly dance, but things that did require the body and being creative with the body. And yeah, I was just really struck with how you moved.
And that's, I don't know, that's just so surprising to me because I think that was the first audition ever. Well, I just come back from taking, that whole pandemic time, that time to, get back into the swing of things. I took that whole time to go back home and just kind of reset and, reevaluate if I really wanted to do this whole acting thing. And I'm like, no, this is what I love. I'm going to go do it, but I'm going to give it all I got. And so it was my first audition back. It was my very first audition back. And I'm just like, well, it's something I want to do. It's a beautiful, it sounds like a beautiful story. It sounds like it's going to be a beautiful experience. And it's, a movement role. I've never done that before. I want to kind of be out of, my element and try something new. And yeah, I'm afraid of moving my body, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it. And so, yeah, it was the first time where I'm just like, you know what? This is mine. This body is mine. This vessel is mine. And it deserves to be seen. And I don't care what happens in the audition. I'm just going to give it everything I got and just go for it. And yeah, I'm just I'm really just wow, I'm a little bit in shock that you said that because I'm just like, wow, no, if you really think it really does come across.
Yeah.
If you believe it, other people will as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. Confidence in yourself and confidence before others makes such a difference.
Yeah.
So what are ways that you try and make yourself feel more grounded in your body today? Do you have any special rituals or habits or advice for others?
Yeah. Well, today like I said, with going through cancer, going through all of that and just accepting my body the way that it is, it moves the way that it does because of the experiences that I've gone through, that this is all those trials made me who I am today. And that deserves to be seen. I've just really, before any audition or anything, I just kind of reconnect back to those thoughts and no, this is my body. This is my instrument. I'm going to use it to tell a story. And I don't care if it's the right story. It's my story and it's my version of this story. So I think just, having that thought and just saying however I move in this space, it doesn't matter because it's right. And it doesn't matter if they think it's right. I think it's right. And that's all that's all that should even matter. And just kind of getting into that, mantra space before I do any audition. I think that's kind of my way in.
Yeah. Thank you for being so vulnerable and talking a little bit about your cancer experience. I'm wondering what it was like to go through that at such a young age. And there's so many misconceptions that cancer is something that only happens to old people, right? So how was it being in your teens going through something that, so many people just assume is reserved for people who are at least 55?
Right. It was such a weird, jarring experience, to the point now where I'm like, wow, that really happened. That was a real thing that happened. But yeah, it was crazy. I remember when I got sick, they had just told me a week before that I made the musical theater company at my high school. And I wanted to be on that company so bad. I had trained every day, like I set aside every day after school, like 20 minutes to an hour for me to like practice my singing, practice my dance, and practice my monologue, just so I could, like maybe make the team the next year. And yeah, every day after school, I set aside my time to do that. And then came the day of the audition, and I like danced my little heart out. I sang my little heart out. I did everything I needed to, and then I found out I make the company, and then the next week they told me I had cancer.
Jeez.
And I'm such a weirdo. No, I really am. Normally, okay. Well, I was sitting there in the doctor's office, right? And they tell me I had cancer. And like, what are the things a normal person thinks of? They think of, oh no, this is going to be like, this is devastating to not just me. This is devastating to my family. This is devastating to, our money situation. Like, what is chemo? What does that look like? Am I going to live? And these are like just, the thoughts that would normally race through a normal person's mind. The only thing that I thought of in that moment after they told me that I was dying and that I had cancer was the only thing that came to mind was, oh no, I had just made productions company. I'm not going to get to perform. What? And yeah, that was the moment where I knew that my love for acting, for this art, was bigger than me. It transcended me. It was so much a part of me that here I was in the face of death, and this was the only thing I could think of. And yeah, and I'm like, and I looked myself in the mirror after the doctor left. I went to the restroom and I kind of looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, okay, this person that you're looking back at, she's sick. But you're not gonna go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna do everything that you set out to do. You're not gonna leave until you do every single goal that you have in your heart. And yeah, you're gonna get to act in all the shows that you wanted to. You're gonna keep going, and one day you might even win an Oscar. You never know. But you're not going anywhere tonight, and you're not going anywhere tomorrow, and you're gonna live. And I kind of made that decision then and there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to do everything I want to. And so, yeah, that whole year I performed in 4 shows.
Wow.
No understudy. No, that was insane back then. I would, like a typical day would be me going to math class or English class in the morning, leaving halfway to go get chemo, go to the hospital, go get chemo. I would come back, finish said math class, finish like the whole day, go do a dance rehearsal, and then perform a full show that night.
Whoa.
And I would do that, and I would just do it. And yeah, because I knew that whenever I stepped out on that stage, like, that was it. I was not sick. There was nothing wrong with me. I was just me, just doing the thing that I believe I was set out here to do. So, yeah, and yeah, I just kind of kept that mentality. I'm just like, wow, whatever I face from here on out, that's nothing compared to what I went through back then. And so, but yeah, it was that pure love of art, that pure love of, of telling a story that it was so big to me that it transcended any pain that I felt. It transcended anything that I thought I couldn't do. And yeah, I'm all the better for it.
Yeah. What did your family say about you wanting to continue to perform?
Yeah, my poor mother. You can only imagine. Like, I was just dragging this lady along, just doing, to all these auditions, like from the hospital, after getting chemo, just straight to an audition room. I'm so sorry, Mom. I put her through so much. I remember there was one particular instance where there was an audition for Cymbeline at my school, and they had us, well, because they knew I had to be in hospital for about a week to get a certain type of chemo that took about a week to administer.
Wow.
Yeah, because of that, they're like, yeah, you can audition before, and then after that, we'll see how you are after that. But yeah, you're more than welcome to audition before you have to go to the hospital. And so I'm like, okay. So I went and I did my audition. I didn't think anything of it. I went to the hospital that evening, and I was just sitting tight in my hospital bed, just like sipping my juice, having my IV, run, and I'm just like, everything's good. And then I look at my phone and I see that I got callbacks, and that the callbacks were the next afternoon.
What?
And I'm sure they would have made like some sort of like arrangement for me to do a callback later or something. But I was crazy back then, mind you. Very crazy. So I'm like, hey doc, what are the odds that I can leave out of here, get out of here before noon tomorrow? What are the odds of that? And he's like, there's no way. There is no way you're going to pee all of this medicine out of your system in order for you to make that. And I look him straight in the eye. I'm like, you want to bet? and that night, I just like downed like my body weight in water. I downed so much water. And like I said, I was dragging my poor mom along. She had just finished like a full shift at the hospital, and like here she was straight from work coming with me to walk across, just across the whole floor of the unit that I was in at the hospital, and just like following me with the little IV stick. I'm like, come on, Mom, I gotta work this out of my system. She's like, okay, mija, all right, I'll follow you. And so she would just do that with me. And so, yeah, until I got it all out of my system, and they discharged me the next morning at 8:45.
Wow.
And so I just went straight to school after that, and then I did my callback. But
wow. So with that level of perseverance, I was a little bit taken aback when you said, oh, and then in 2020, I went home and I was questioning, should I still be doing this?
Yeah.
So what planted that doubt? Was it just but was it the uncertainty of the pandemic, or were there other motivations?
I think all of us can relate to a time that we have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
There was definitely a moment there because, everything was fine. I was working as a child guardian off Broadway. I had appointments with certain agents, and they were expecting me. Like, everything seemed to be fine. I did like the week before the pandemic hit, I was doing it was a workshop with Kristen Chenoweth for like an undisclosed musical that unfortunately never got to see the light of day. But so I was doing a child guardianship for that, and everything was good. And then it hit, and I think with that time, or we all had to reevaluate everything, with the loss of our jobs, with the loss of, opportunities and everything. We kind of had to reevaluate who we are, what we believe in, and where, how we see ourselves and where we are in this world. And I had just a lot of doubts. I'm like, okay, I'm going home because I just lost my job. I lost all these opportunities. And who am I? Like, what am I? Like, how can I do this? Like, what is the industry even now? Like, I don't even know what that is. It's funny that you mentioned that, that strength that I previously had, and how that kind of, snowballed into this time where I'm just kind of lost. It's funny you mentioned that, because like I myself was thinking that every day. I'm just like, how did this girl that, went through so much and still came out on top, like why is she, like having this crippling sense of like doubt, like this crippling sense of, who am I? What am I doing? Do I even know how to act? Like, what's going on here? But yeah, I think it's part of being human. It's part of us, just how we are naturally, just, always questioning, always wondering if we're doing the right thing, if we're on the right path, if this is what we're supposed to do. And I'm kind of grateful for it, because had I not had that time to self-reflect and really kind of go back to square one, I don't think I would have had the strength to, have that sense of confidence that I have now in my performance, and, and that sense of confidence I have in myself. enough to the point where, we eventually got to meet, because we got to work on a project together. Like if I didn't have that time to fix those, mistakes that I kept making or those bad habits that I had in me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So, I think it's absolutely normal for us to kind of reevaluate, but to not let that defeat us, because we're going to rebuild and we're going to, make that foundation even stronger than it was before.
Yeah, that was beautifully said.
Thank you.
So, how would you define yourself as an artist today? What are some of your guiding principles?
I think honesty and transparency are at the root of everything I do now. I'm unapologetically myself.
Yay!
Good. Yeah, and that was something that I felt like I always had to hide before. I'm just like, like my body doesn't move naturally or doesn't move like the way it should, or it gets really tired. But I'm like, you know what? That's because I went through hell and back and I survived it. And this is who I am now. And I think just really owning that. Yeah, not being afraid to be 100% myself in everything that I do and knowing that it deserves to be seen.
Also beautifully said. Okay, what are the kinds of stories that you want to tell or have a hand in telling?
I think stories of, I really gravitate towards stories of the underdog, of people that don't really get to have their stories told. This is kind of why I wrote the first play that I wrote about a young Mexican immigrant who was leaving her home, crossing the border to find a better life. And back then I felt that her stories like that, they only see it, like they're very villainized, and you don't really get to see the humanity. And so I really focused on, when I wrote it, I really focused on the humanity of the story. And it's not just black and white, that there is a gray area in there. And yeah, I think that those are the kind of stories that I tend to really really dive into. And that's all I want to do, honestly.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. We are recording just before New Year's Eve. I was the insane person who asked Ash to record with me on Friday, December 29th. So I can't help but think toward the new year, as so many of us do. And I'd love to know what dreams you have for 2024, any goals you might feel comfortable sharing, or if there are any changes in your mindset that you've noticed recently that you hope you're really going to embrace in this new year.
Yeah. So recently, and it's actually thanks to your show.
Yay!
Yeah, thanks to mi abuela and my whole experience there, and rediscovering my body. And like I started immediately after, I started taking dance classes, and I had never taken a dance class before, and I was terrified to do so, and I was so scared, and I'm like, I'm not a dancer, what am I doing? And but I stuck through it, and I feel fairly confident going into a dance room now. And so to embrace that, I think that whole mentality of being, even though you're afraid of something, sticking through that fear and just keep going until you reach the goal that it is, whatever it is that you want. I feel like that's that feeling of like, I faced my fear and I can do anything, is like one of the greatest things you could ever feel. And so, I'm just going to charge through this next year, having fear of, failure, of course, like, oh, what if I don't get this? What if I don't do that? Having that fear and just, charging through it anyway. So in everything that I do, no matter how scary, I'm going to keep going. And that's kind of what I want this next year to be about. I want to do scary things and things that are really frightening to me. Me and my poor little, I'm not very extroverted. I'm like my very introverted self. Like I just want to charge through all of it. And I want to make my parents proud, especially my poor mother. She unfortunately herself right now is going through, she has mesothelioma right now. So she's going through her own cancer battle. And
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I made a promise to her before I left home this last time for, I went home for the holidays, and just right before I left, I looked her in the eye and I'm like, Mom, I'm going to make you proud.
Aw.
I don't know what it is this next year, but I'm going to give it everything I got and I'm going to make you proud. So I don't know. I just keep that, that look of my mom, her little teary eyes. I just keep that at the back of my mind, and I'm going to charge through this next year with that in mind.
Yeah, I think that sort of closeness to parents and like the devotion and wanting to make our parents proud is something that it seems like every Latin culture has.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that not every culture has that, right? Like on my Anglo side, that is definitely not like the WASP side of the family. That is not how things function.
Yeah.
People rebel. They do what they want to do.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think I definitely relate to what you're saying about wanting to make your mom proud, and I'm sure she is so proud of you, and she's just that love and pride is only gonna grow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope so. I'll work hard, Mom.
I'm curious, what kind of dance class was it?
It was a hip hop class.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know.
Why? Because it was scary.
It was scary and it looked cool.
Yeah.
It looked really, really cool.
Have you taken any kind of dance class before?
No.
Oh, okay. Like really nothing.
Yeah.
In theater school, nothing.
Just movement classes,
Okay.
just like the stereotypical actor movement classes, just those. Yeah, nothing else in my back pocket.
But you were like maybe ballroom, maybe swing, maybe
No.
hip hop.
I know.
Wow. And was there any kind of public performance or presentation at the end of it? Or
There was.
Ooh.
So something the Patlan family does every Christmas is that we have our own Christmas talent show. And that kind of is like our little showcase to each other. There's so many of us. There's like 20, 30 of us at home. Just our little showcase to each other of like, what was the skill that you developed throughout this year that you want to show everyone? And yeah, everyone participates, even the dogs. And so, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing. And my sister, who was a dancer, my eldest sister, she's been a dancer her whole life. She used to like kind of pick on me when we were kids, and she's like, you'll never be as good as a dancer as I am. I'm like, what are you doing? Haha. So it was kind of like a childhood trauma that I had of dancing in public. And of course, like, we forgive our siblings after the horrible things, that we go through together, like, in growing, like, we have all done something, like thrown something at someone's head, all of us have done that. So like, I've forgiven her, but like, I did my dance and she started crying and she's like, I am so sorry for the things that I've done to you in the past, and that this was something that, that traumatized you. So like in that moment, I'm just like, oh, so it wasn't just something that I was going through as a kid. It was something she was going through too, because she remembers all the tormenting that she did to me. And it's something that haunted her as well. And I felt like, in me doing this dance, that both of us kind of healed that inner child. And that both of us are like, it's okay now. So one thing leads to another, doesn't it?
Gosh, well, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much. My guest has been Ash Patlan. I am your host, Christine Stoddard, here on Badass Lady Folk. Watch us Thursdays, 1 p.m. on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Listen to us on Radio Free Brooklyn Fridays at 9 a.m. or find us on YouTube and podcast platforms anytime. Tune in next time.